Welcome back. Thank you once again for hanging out with us. This is the one and only IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Waltenspiel, hanging out with co-host, producer extraordinaire, Randy Walker. Guest this week, it's the board of directors from Penguicon. James in the house, Norm's in the house, Heidi's in the house. We're going to be talking all things Penguicon. I should have the date written down, but I didn't, but you guys are going to tell everybody. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and we're looking forward to hearing all the cool details they're going to go on. You can find us online, itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials. Subscribe to us everywhere. Fine podcasts are sold. Don't forget our events every third Thursday. We're going to be at the Detroit Shipping Company for throughout probably the rest of the year. Meetup.com/IT in the D. No speakers, no cover, just a bunch of IT people talking shop. We could use some recruiters because last week we had a bunch of devs that were looking for work. So if you're a recruiter, put the word out and get your butt to one of the IT in the D events. We had Brad took over because me and Randy were both out. So Brad did a good job being the host. That was the first time that either me or someone else wasn't hosting the event in probably 15 years. So thank you, Brad, for pitching and appreciate it. Penguicon crew, how we doing? Want to go round robin and introduce yourself just so we know who's who talking?
Good. I guess I'll start.
I'm looking at you, so let's go.
So I'm Heidi Hawkins. I am the president of the board. Just took over exactly 6 months ago at this point.
Nice. Awesome. Glad you can make it. James?
I'm James Brown. I show up and I pretend to know things. That's what I do.
Isn't that what I was going to make an IT guy joke, but I'll refrain now. I get ripped on for being a sales guy, so I get it. So, and then Mr. Norm?
Norm Whitty. I've been attending Penguicon for quite a while and joined the board this year.
Cool. Awesome. It's awesome to have you guys here. Like I said, I'm a huge a fan of what the conference is and what you guys are about. I guess, Heidi, since you are the president, El Jefe, the Presidente, why don't we give it a little history lesson as to what is Penguicon and how we got here?
I am not the right person to ask.
We need Bill Putz.
I can help. Norm, you want to chip in? I can start too.
Okay, so Penguicon started out as a Linux release party in around the year 2000.
2002, I believe.
2002, yes.
It is the year minus 2 is how you know how long it's been around.
Uh-huh.
I know something.
So as the lore goes, it was an open source release party, Linux release party, turned into an open source. I always describe it to people as an open source human convention. And then
Yes.
I get that sideways look, and I said, listen, if you know how to do something weird or cool or something in between, like you're going to want to host and teach other people how to do something weird and something cool or something in between. I guess Norm, you've been around probably the longest. Give us some examples of like some of the old, because I remember they had shillelagh fighting. That was one of my favorite ones I've attended. And we're like, shillelagh fighting. But I remember I've done panels in the past on podcasting. I remember seeing a live social engineering hacker break it and get a password from some business. We used to do like the 10 commandments of networking was our big one, teaching people how to get out there and network.
Also things like securing your passwords and doing security stuff for lay people and self-hosting things. I've done a panel for a while. It's called Open Source Relationships. It's about applying the concepts of open source to non-traditional relationships, sharing information and figuring things out together, peer reviewing and things like that. So I've also I did a panel once on an astronomy panel once on when they took the photo of the black hole, and I did a whole bunch of research on that, and I had all my notes, and I did this panel, and there was an astrophysicist in the front row, and he was so awesome. He helped me, he was like, you're off by 1 billion there, but you're on the right track. He kind of filled in some of the things that I didn't know, and and it was really fun. And that's kind of what I think the spirit of the con is, being in, like you said, open source humans.
Yeah.
We, the attendees, we drive the content and the direction of the con. And so it becomes what we put into it.
Exactly. Like a couple, like last year, the past few years, I've actually done watercolor galaxies as a panel.
How cool is that?
Yeah. I took up just the self-taught, learned how to paint 2018, and then decided to start teaching others at the panel or at the con, and took my own panel there. And I even brought supplies for everyone, so people could just walk in and just start painting. And it was a good way of just like having a chill hour or two for people to learn something. And, and it's that whole open source thing of here's something completely different, but something you can take for yourself, and a new skill that you learn when you walk away from it too.
We learned that a long time ago with IT in the D. Was like they said, what is your show about? And it evolved. In the beginning, it was IT, and then it became like, what do IT people talk about at either at the data center, at the watercolor, at work? So we got really involved with like the Comic-Cons, and because we were all 80s sci-fi junkies, and so it was more self-fulfilling. But then we found out it was hitting a nerve, and that's another thing with Penguicon. It's these it's not it's IT people, but it's so much more than that. It's almost like what are they into? Because everybody, we're not going home and doing Raspberry Pi servers. We're we have dogs and cats and and
some of us might be.
And we paint galaxies and but I'm just saying, it's like that was I guess, I don't want to say is it hard to fill the rooms, because I think we have more submissions, but like vetting the submissions and making sure that people are putting out good content. I think is that something you guys are doing, or you guys leave it up to the people to decide if it's worthwhile or not? Like, how is that determination made?
That's a good question. I think
so. Yeah, we're in the process of figuring that out. So 2025's con is not happening because bankroll was a little light following last year. We are in the process of rebuilding the bankroll, but we are also in the process of figuring out how to redefine that con chair role to take a lot of the burden away from the con chair for like the things like figuring out the hotel, and then figuring out so then they can focus on that programming component and figure out all right, what is going to be the good shit, and getting the con chair to really focus on what they need to do to make a good con.
Yeah. So the con chair is the person that really decides what the theme is for that year. And so that's going to really take a lead into who the guest of honors are going to be, and also a lot of what the themes are going to be. But also we have different tracks. Like they have the DIY track where you learn things like that. You have the tech type of tracks. There's the recent anime track that has started too. And so I think people will be in charge of those specific tracks, and those people kind of work together to figure out what panels they want to have within there as well.
You got to up the bar on the guests of honor, because I think I was part of the guest of honor on 2019 or 18 or 17, one of the years, I forget. But I do still have the best. Let's get we'll go move around. But I said I still have my best room party trophy in my office.
Nice.
Which is a component of Penguicon. Not a lot of people. I always thought was the coolest part. They said, they tried to explain it to me in the beginning, and they said the third floor is, if you have your doors open, it's open so it's open source partying. And so here I am thinking I'm going to be cool, and I'm going to bring a Bluetooth speaker and a case of vodka. And then I walked around going, yeah, that's not going to cut it. So the following year, we, as I mentioned, we brought in, I had old DJ equipment from back in the day, and we were partners in a fledgling brewery. So we had some high alcohol content beer, and let's just turn it up really loud and see what happens. And, lo and behold, we get best room party. But talk to me about they're all different too, which is, I think is cool. There's this, Scotch tasting. There's the Star Trek folks.
Yep.
Let's get into that side of Penguicon.
Yeah, I was actually going to say about Larry Nemechek was a guest of honor.
18 or 9? No, it was
2023.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he is this almost like this open source Star Trek guy. He's just a super fan who just kind of got himself in the mix of everything. And he writes fan fiction. He wrote this whole book about stellar cartography. He's kind of like a Star Trek historian. So like he's contributed to like writing, he's contributed to like historian stuff for Star Trek. So I was just like following this guy around the whole con, going to all of his panels and just absorbing all of his Star Trek lore and information. And it was really cool. But it was like, it's different than just having, you know, Brett Spiner as a guest of honor. You know, it's like a really like open source guy who lives this culture and you know, brings that experience to the con. So
I remember going to YomaCon, and John St. John was the guest of honor. If you don't know who that is, it's the voice of Duke Nukem.
Oh, God.
And they treated him like a deity. And this guy was like a 10 out of 10 personality. And I didn't get it. And then after spending like a day and a half with him, I'm like, I totally get why you're like, everybody loves you. It's not like you just did the voice. Like you're actually, you know, you are Duke Nukem at this point in your life, you know?
Wow.
Right. So, all right, we have the programming, we have the parties. Everybody like chips in to feed everyone, so it's almost like my cousins during the Super Bowl. Everybody bring a dish. It's everybody kind of. I'm trying to like the crux of this thing is everybody kind of helping everybody.
Yeah,
it really is.
Like you get out of it what you put into it.
Sure. So now we kind of talked earlier. I'll rip the Band-Aid off, and that's okay. Like I think. You know, not saying that there was ever issues, but like every time you give everyone a voice, it feels like everyone has a voice. It's kind of like when you read the reviews at restaurants. And Randy and I were just talking that Siva closed. And I remember we did a podcast reading the 1-star Yelp reviews. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like only so many vegan restaurants in town. And like they bend over backwards to help everyone. And it seems like it's never good enough. Like, does that ever get disheartening? Is that ever, because I mean, everyone's got a special request, I think. And then when you open up the floor for everybody, like, you know, is it, you know, I guess, how do you tackle that? Because, you know, obviously you guys are trying to make everybody happy.
I actually have a really good story about this.
Yeah.
So Tron Guy was originated at Penguicon. So for those in the audience, if you haven't heard about Tron Guy, like literally Googled Tron Guy, everything will pop up.
It's like one of the OG memes.
Yeah. Like early internet meme culture.
Yeah.
He made a Tron costume. He debuted it at Penguicon, and
I didn't know that. That's wild.
In like 2006 or something like that, and he became like a staple of the con, and he was he had some grievances. He was traveling from Minnesota, and he had some grievances like with the direction of the con and stuff, and the board at the time brought him in and talked to him and said, what is it that you want to see, you know, at the con? Like, what can we do? And it was kind of a political difference. Like he didn't feel comfortable with the existence of gender neutral bathrooms and stuff like that there.
Like the one you just used, Heidi. That was so bad.
Absolutely terrible.
Like worst day ever.
Right.
And he wanted to see more of his point of view represented. And so, you know, they sat down with him and they tried to figure out what it was, you know, that he wanted. And it's like, well, you know, this is a duocracy. You know, you got to be the con you want to see in the world, and
submit for a panel there, Tron Guy.
Right. And you can't please everybody, but in the end, you really do get out of it what you put into it. And so I think that there has been very good faith efforts to make sure that everybody is heard, even people who have tried to spark conflict.
Sure. And that's the thing, like, I don't want to say there needs to be like not a warning on the door, but like anybody that's even remotely considering a closed mind, like don't go to Penguicon, because it's everybody. Yeah. Everybody is represented, and it's a good thing. That's one of the things that like one of the things I fell in love with it was there is if whatever it is that gets you up in the morning and makes your clock run around, like it's here. Like, and if you don't want to be around it, then, that's not saying that bothers me, but like, again, you need to have a super open mind. Cause again, it's an open source. What do you think with open source humans? It's every walk of life, every single, every viewpoint, every, all of that stuff.
And nothing is mandatory.
No. Right. You don't want to go, don't go. Right.
You don't have to use the gender neutral bathroom.
Yeah. You don't have to go to the room parties if you don't want
you don't, or you don't have to go to the after dark panels if that's not comfortable.
You do want to go to my room party though, because I was very strict. It was an 80s party, and I would not play. I remember getting yelled at by Bill, who said I needed to play Time Warp at midnight, and I said, Time Warp is 1979, Mr. Bill. I am not playing it. I go, I don't care if it's a nerd party. I'm playing Flash Gordon at midnight because I can. I just learned recently that Bill is the official Penguicon historian.
Official, unofficial?
No, I thought that I heard that he was actually the official Penguicon.
Like keeping books?
Or is he unofficial and we're trying to...
unofficial, and I am campaigning for him to be made official.
We're looking...
Bill, if you're listening, I'm on your side.
I'll vote for Bill.
Seconded.
Yeah. So I guess other than the open source humans, I think the tech track, kind of like the origins of it. So like, James, I know you were talking a little bit about like, I said, you guys doing a Linux release party? And you're like, what? Maybe we should. I'm like, oh man, it's like the roots. But like as far as tech tracks go, what are some of the things you want to accomplish or get seen? Or is it just wide open for, because I know like old school gaming's a huge thing. Coding's a huge thing. Hacking's a huge thing. But like other than like, what else do you want to see, or what is being showcased at Penguicon?
The big thing I really want to see is more presentation of open source and getting off of the big name Microsoft, the Google, getting off the big name platforms for open source options. I recently dropped all of my Facebook, my Twitters or X or whatever for the Mastodons, the Lemmys, the Friendica, and I'm going that direction with things. And
bring back BBSs. That's old guy IT. Yeah, right.
Oh, there
right,
we go.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
I really want to see more teaching people from like zero, like from the complete, like they have no idea what they're doing, haven't even opened up a computer.
I'll bring my mom.
Yeah, bring your mom.
I'm like, Mom, click the browser. Like, what's the what? What's the browser? I'm like, my dad passed away like 3 years ago, and he was electronics junkie, and he brought me up on computers and tech and everything. And when he passed away, like my mom was like, what's that? Like, what's your Wi-Fi? Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, but I can't get to my Bank of America on the laptop. Like, so,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just being funny, but like, there's a lot of people like start like. I guess how would you even start from zero? Like that's a great topic.
Well, I mean, a good example here is I've met a few like younger people like who are in their like 18 to 20, young 20s ages, and they don't realize that Gmail is email.
What do they think it is?
or what did we do before Google Maps? We used the map? No, what are you talking about?
Was it the save? Like, what is the floppy disk? And they don't know what the floppy disk is for. Like,
right?
Yeah.
Well,
even though it's a save button.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Because they would use, like they explained to me, well, we would just use Chromebooks, so everything would be there. I don't have email; I have Gmail. Because they, right? Because, in their mind, when they look at their phone, you have the little mail app.
Right.
And then you have a Gmail app. And then if you think about it, if you look at their perspective, it makes sense because, Snapchat doesn't talk to, Messenger, right? So they don't think that, an email talks to another email for some reason, even though that's what email is. So the basics of that, a lot of people don't even understand.
Does anyone have an email that's not a Gmail anymore? Like, in all honesty, like
a
Randy
work
has
one?
a me.
I still have a Hotmail.
Okay. You have a Hotmail?
I've got a
Yeah.
You still have a Hotmail?
From when I was like 14 years old.
Oh dear God. I think I have a Yahoo account somewhere.
I have a Yahoo for fantasy football from 20 years ago, and I don't want to get rid of it because that's my fan. I could change email in my fantasy football league, but I just leave it. So
I have a .wtf address that I registered.
Nice.
Yeah.
at one point, I didn't realize that we would get drunk on this podcast a long time ago, and we would buy stupid domains. It was a habit. And
It sounds like a great use.
we got into it. It was and then until you go through them, because GoDaddy used to be $8.
Yeah.
Then if you'd buy an oddball TLD, then it's all of a sudden you're like $79. I get the receipt, and the receipt was diarrhea.pizza. And I had it aimed to Hungry Howie's because I was on a rant on how it wrecks my. But then my favorite story of all time with IT and the D was there was so much. You remember this, Norm? There was so much fanfare for the 8 Mile Applebee's. It was on every news crew. It was on every news channel. It was loud that Detroit's getting their first Applebee's. So we got Detroit. I think, Randy, check and see if it still works. DetroitApplebee's.com, I think, goes to this podcast.
Oh, wow.
And we showed up the first day. We had a guy that we were friends with make Detroit Applebee shirts. Instead of the apple, it was a red Old English D. And we showed up en masse, like 8 of us. It still works. Oh, my God, that's crazy. DetroitApplebee's.com. It goes to this podcast. So it's another, I didn't delete that one. So it's another $22 or whatever I spend every year on stupid website names. Anyway, back to Penguin. I could tell stupid stories all day, but we're not here for that. We're here for Penguicon. So you guys are having what's the story with this masquerade this year? Is this new?
Yes. So May 17th, we are having a masquerade at the Laurel Manor. And this is a fundraiser gala.
Which Laurel Manor
in Livonia.
Is it still there? They knocked down one of them.
This one still exists.
Okay, all right.
You booked something called the Laurel Manor.
I was there.
Astronomicon was in Livonia, and that got knocked down. I'm not saying that your venue got knocked down. I'm just make sure it's the right one.
Last week, so I hope not.
All right, no, it definitely was not. It was down there. So anyway, continue. Sorry.
So it's a dark fantasy type of themed
Can I be a gelfling?
You can
Yeah.
be whatever you want.
You can, yes.
So when you say masquerade, so like I want to say like
formal gala,
okay,
dress up, put a mask on. Masks are the optional, but have one with you kind of deal. Kind of like how at Theater Bazaar, their masquerade,
Yeah.
you would have a mask and stuff. We're even having like a little mask making event next month for people who are like, I don't have a mask. Well, come and join us and make a mask with us.
yeah, Amazon $8.
I know, right? But it's just like a nice little fun gathering that way too. But yeah, the gala, we're hoping to have like a raffle and an auction type thing to help raise funds. But dancing, like a tarot reader, some entertainment otherwise, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. And it's just a way for us to get the funds going so that we can have 2026 Penguicon happen for a full weekend. We really want to bring it back to where it was in the past, which also means like we want to grow our community more. We want to have this really be a big thing again. And so part of that is getting that fundraiser and that seed money to get us to that point where we can get a hotel and start planning for that next con.
Well, and that's what I always liked about it was, there's not, the fees were very cheap considering normal other cons I would go to. It wasn't brought to you by, so now you're not getting spammed and beholden to, and it was again, like by the people. But then the on the flip side of that coin is, it's almost like somebody doesn't pay for their dinner at the dinner table, and everyone else has got to chip in to cover theirs because they walked away.
Right.
So it's like there's it's a lot of money to rent out a hotel and all those rooms, and
it is a lot of money, and those fees are going up because a lot of hotels like to do weddings instead of conventions now because they can make more money.
You get one M&M video at the Russell Industrial Center, and all of a sudden they want $10,000 to rent out the big warehouse room. I'm like, no. We used to do the Pinksa parties, right? Or job fairs. It was from Thursday from 5 to 8. And I think we charged 3 sponsors at like $1,000 just so we could pay for the head or pay for the overhead, and then we could buy pizza for everyone from Sergeant Pepperoni or whatever.
Right.
And it was $700 back in the day to get St. Andrews. It was $1,300 to get the Majestic, right? And that's when we outgrew all our other free venues. We tried to call them today because they're owned by Live Nation or whatever they're owned by now. It was $7,000 because me and Randy were talking about let's do the Pink place. Right, but I'm just like Thursday from 5 to 8 just to turn the lights on, because like Nuri DJ'd one year one of the Pink Slip parties, so we just like plugged into their PA. The sound guy was like a couple $100. We're like, yeah, of course, add him. But like now it's like it's completely washed everything. Like the stuff that was these grassroots, we didn't make any money, we didn't want any, but it's the same thing. It's kind of impacting you guys too.
Right.
Speaking of Nuri and I will be DJing the Masquerade.
Nice.
Yep. So
if he's DJing, I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, so we're going to be fundraising for, continuing the con next year, getting things going. And it is definitely unfortunate that we had to, make some adjustments for the big con this year.
Right.
And delay it to next year. But we have a full year to plan next year's. So
I think it's the same thing that Astronomicon dealt with was, there was all ICP and twisted people, and like everybody's jacket smelled like Cheech and Chong, and like getting a hotel to like going cool. But like, again, like what the Southfield West End, they're all saints for like, dealing, not saying that you guys are overbearing, but there was a lot of people, and especially with the 3rd floor, 4th floor, it was loud until 2 a.m. And like, it's they've earned their sainthood. And they used to I loved all the workers. They all wore Star Wars and Star Trek shirts, whatever.
The hotel, the workers loved us.
Yeah.
They dressed up. They hung out. They loved us.
No, it was a perfect spot for it too, because it's centrally located if you want to come. But like that was the thing. People were coming in from like Milwaukee, like within 5-6 hour drive, people were coming in for this.
Yeah.
What was, is it the allure that like, it's just this cross section of humanity? I guess, you could probably explain better than anybody know, but like, what was like that's how I felt it was. It was like, you just get to meet someone from every walk of life known to man. Like, what was it to you? Like, why would somebody drive 6 hours to come to this?
Well, it's kind of a viral thing, right? So there's an attendee at Penguicon who came from Detroit originally. They were a board president at I3 Detroit, big into Maker Faire and I3 and the DIY community and stuff. But then they moved to Wisconsin. Well, they still came to Penguicon every year, and then they started bringing people, and so then there started to be like a small crowd from Madison area coming out, and I think that happens a lot. I think that there's that the Tron, like I said, Tron guy was from Minnesota.
Okay,
people either it's either the event is local and then they leave Michigan, or they just hear, or they hear about it from outside of Michigan and they go, and then they start bringing people. Because the one thing that I hear the most from people, especially when I've talked to people about, the ramifications of not being able to do the big con this year, is that the reason why most people go is because it's the one time of the year that they get to see their friend.
Yeah.
And it's an expansive community geographically.
Sure. Well, it was Christmas for a lot. I knew this, like speaking to people, that was their Christmas. Like,
yeah,
it was kind of like there's certain Comic Cons where like they save up all year just to go to this one con, because that's their people. So yeah, that's definitely a thing.
I think, one of the things about Penguicon that I really loved, and I only started going in like 2018-ish, 2019, I can't remember even, but it doesn't matter what your interests are. It doesn't matter what your experience is. You don't have to be a tech person. You don't have to be any sort of type of person. You will still find something you enjoy.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of the big cons, like an anime con or something, you're going to go, you're going to see lots of like anime stuff, which is awesome. But you might not be able to bring a couple of your friends who won't be interested. Penguicon, it doesn't matter what your friends are interested in. You can bring them. They will have a good time too. That is probably one of the most appealing things about Penguicon.
And that was like my first time. Like I said the same thing. Like I was, I've always been, sport coat, and that I walk in, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm going to change next time. Put on a track jacket, get my coder uniform, the quarter zip or the hoodie. But no, I still found, even though like when you say it's for everybody, you're not lying. It's literally for, one of our friends from IT and the D, Ian. This guy has autism. And he did a panel, and it was liberating. It was fantastic, and the fact that he was able to get a platform, and it was insanely cool. I got kicked out of one panel though. It was MST3K, and it was for like, what was that alligator movie, Randy, with LL Cool J, or was it a snake movie? It had like J-Lo and like LL Cool J, and like,
are you talking about the shark
John
movie?
Voight. No, it wasn't Sharknado. It was either an alligator movie or a snake movie. Anyway, I wouldn't. We had a couple too many whiskeys, and we were a little loud and we were joking over the joke. People that were doing the joke, so we got kicked out.
Oh,
and that was I still feel bad. If you're out there and you were at that, I'm sorry. I feel bad. Like I really do. So you said Penguicon isn't this year? You're just doing the Masquerade,
Correct.
and you're hoping 26 you're going to come back.
Yes.
Any venue ideas, or you still got to work all that out?
That is what we're working on right now.
Okay.
So I think we're all on a mission to figure out the different options we have available. Figuring out what the budget would be and all of that too. So now that we actually have time, it's not a rush where we would have rushed if we had it this year, and that wouldn't have served the community well either. So we really want to find a venue that will serve the amount of people that we have, but also allow us to grow a little bit as well.
Sure. Tickets for the Masquerade are at penguicon.org, I'm going to assume.
Yes, it's under events, and should be the Masquerade that's underneath there. And then the tickets are about $150, so they are expensive.
For each or for a couple?
For each.
Okay.
But it is to help with Penguicon,
Sure.
and it's to build the funds. So where it is a full night open bar, 3-course dinner included. So with dancing and entertainment. So we tried to make it worth the value as well.
Sure.
But we understand it's not everybody can go. So whatever support they're able to do throughout the year with us, we also appreciate that too.
And you're a 501c3. This is not a profit-making endeavor.
No. Yes, this is we are 501(c)(3).
That means nonprofit if you're keeping score at home.
Yes.
Yes. So, now that you have a solid year to plan, like, do you guys have any perfect world scenarios on like back to the roots? Do you want it to evolve? I guess is there a perfect world scenario you want to see when it does ultimately come back?
I think you just asked the question we haven't asked ourselves yet. We've been in damage control mode for so long. I think, back to the roots, back to the open source, really. But, as you've said, Heidi, like the draw of Penguicon being that like there is something for everyone there, making sure that opportunity exists. I'm a tech guy. I love the tech. But man, I also like attending all the writing panels because they're interesting topics.
Yeah. As the president, I kind of came up with like a vision of where we want to be. And my personal ultimate goal would be in 3 years, if we could triple our membership, that would be going back to like the peak of Penguicon. Mm-hmm. And I would love that because that was when I had first joined, and I would say that first Penguicon I went to just felt magical. Like there was just, anytime you turned a corner, I
felt the same way.
Right.
I really did. I did.
And there was always something fun to do. Like you would just stumble onto something, and people would just be like playing with Legos or something like that. And it was just, it really, I think a lot of people called it like, there's whimsy in it.
Whimsy.
And Yeah, I really want us to try to get to that point where it's not just a larger community, but people who want to participate and add to it, because that's what really makes it special. And where all of those different panels come from is from the community.
Absolutely. And that was, if you look at, I don't want to keep focusing on like the typical IT professional. Every one of us has, if you peel back the onion on our life, like with me, it's, retro gaming, 80s sci-fi, podcasting, networking. Like there's everyone has 3 or 4 things, 5 things, 6 things. Some have more.
Right.
That, but I think that was with like anyone that ever complains about anything programming wise at Penguicon, they didn't read the book long enough. Like, cause there's something there.
Or they can just submit an idea themselves.
Well, that was it's an old line we always used. If you thought about it long enough to complain to me about it, you've thought about it long enough to do something about it. Right. Yep. So I think that, not saying that should be the motto of Penguicon moving forward, but considering what you've all had to deal with the last, few years, not a lot, but enough where, but again, though, just, go do.
Yes.
It's that's the whole point of this. And I think that's, not saying you have people that haven't found the magic of it, but I think that's like one of the things that it should scream, like once you go there, it should scream in your face. Like this is a very unique, very, something that a lot of towns don't have that, or like we're very lucky for it to be here.
Yeah. I mean, and there's just the littlest things that can make it more fun if you add to it yourself. Like last year, my husband and I, we made a pirate treasure chest, and it was a whole treasure hunt that was hidden throughout the hotel. And if people found like the clues and they followed the map, they could find our treasure chest that we just filled with like toys and candy.
Yeah.
But it was, we actually took like little paper gold bar boxes and filled that with the toys and candy. So it felt like you're actually getting the pirates gold that way.
But see, that's the stuff that's fun.
Exactly.
And there's, and that was another thing, like with families, like it was like, oh boy, they brought kids, but there was like kids stuff in the beginning. So like, have you guys made that determination if you're going to leave it open for like people to bring their families, or do you want it to be like, just like the practitioners? Or I guess have you guys thought about that yet?
Historically, it's been a 21 plus con, hasn't it? Like,
Yes.
no,
I think there was a few years.
I think there were. I swear I've seen something that said it was 21.
Yeah,
plus
there's
at
yeah,
times.
It always was.
But
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Not always.
I think up until a certain hours. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
no, not always, but it was
Okay.
that, like the ones that I remember were 21.
The past recent years, it's not been 21 plus, except for like the room parties and those type of
Mhm.
things.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because we had to give out wristbands. I remember.
right,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So
But we didn't do kids programming.
we didn't have a
Ah.
kids track.
Yes,
Um,
with like Confusion has.
Right.
So like for like my water panel galaxy, right? Kids could come into that. Kids did come into that one. It's perfectly fine. I think that's something that we're trying to figure out what is the good balance, because a lot of the people in our community, they are having families, and we want people to feel like they can still go to the con. And there is also a value in, teenagers and younger people being able to go to Penguicon, learn from it, and then become a part of the community as well.
Sure.
So I think that's something we're working on to figure out, like, how do we have that as part of it as well, but also keeping it towards the roots that we have as well.
There's definitely has to be a balance between all ages programming and a track where people drop their kids off and
Yeah.
Babysitting,
and we
Yeah.
and they get and we babysit them. So
We're not babysitting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that.
yeah, so I don't yeah, that's not that direction is not a direction we're going to go in, but I definitely think that all ages programming is going to be a big part of going forward.
Linux is all ages, learning how to do that.
As it should be.
I think 14 years old.
We had
There you go.
I made my daughter take Python when she was 13, 14, freshman year. And she wasn't doing well in it. And it so happened that the Microsoft rep that wrote the curriculum to teach her teacher was on our podcast like 2 weeks before. So I said, and he owed me a favor, so I got you a tutor. It's the guy from Microsoft that wrote the curriculum that taught your teacher. So she ended up getting like an A-. So that was a very cool program Microsoft did. I didn't realize that the vendors were behind like the curriculum at the school. So anyway, I go off on a tangent. May 17th is the Masquerade Ball, Penguicon.org. Penguicon. I always try to .org.
PENGUICON.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to spell
it.
Heidi, James, Norm, I really appreciate you guys coming out and spreading the word. Like I said, if you can't tell, I'm a huge fan, and I think
we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I would. We'll talk offline, but I'd see if I could, pitch in any of what I could do to help. So
appreciate that.
All right, we're gonna wrap things up for this IT and the D show. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor: drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't got to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.